Now, do you know the name Carroll Quigley?
Absolutely.
Carroll Quigley is what I would describe a historian's historian. He wrote a book in 1966 called Tragedy and Hope. It's a huge one. He
1,400 pages, and I've got it here.
he wrote it. Guess who did the transcription? Who typed it? His wife. Anyway, in that book, this is what he is said to have said. The powers of financial capitalism had another far-reaching aim, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This system was to be controlled in a feudalist fashion by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreements arrived at in frequent private meetings and conferences. The apex of the system was to be the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, a private bank owned and controlled by the world's central banks, which were themselves private corporations. Sound about right?
It does.
Think about think about what he is saying. This is 1966. He is saying that the game is on, and the game is being run and controlled by banks, the central banks, and their organization, the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland.
Let me give a little bit more weight to what Carroll Quigley just said.
Please do.
Yeah, not everybody knows who Carroll Quigley was. For over 3 decades, he was the in-house historian for the Council of Foreign Relations, which was created by the Rockefellers post-World War One, basically to dictate American foreign policy. He had access. This is the group that pretty much calls the shots at the CIA. These are the true puppet masters of American foreign policy, with some other groups alive. But if you want to see who's sits at the head of the table, it is the Council of Foreign Relations. He had access to their files for 3 decades. He wasn't supposed to write the book.
But before you go on, how was he able to have access to all of this?
Well, that was his job. He was their historian. He worked for the Council of Foreign Relations.
Okay.
He was there when the CIA was founded. I mean, he's the guy who's seen all the files. It's like, if you had one guy who had access to the, vaults beneath the Vatican, and he writes a 1,400-page book, I'm going to probably want to read that. When I
Yeah.
was getting ready to move cross country last year, I had I was going to read. I read Tragedy and Hope, all 1,400 pages of it, but I had the audiobook lined up for my cross country drive. I ended up flying across and shipping my car, so I didn't get to do that. So now I've got all these audio tapes of Tragedy and Hope waiting to go, and I haven't found, you know, 712 free hours to watch it again. But little bit more on Carroll Quigley. He was
Please.
he was Bill Clinton's mentor. Bill Clinton had just left his Rhodes Foundation, Rhodes Scholarship in England in the 60s when he started. I don't know if we met Quigley. Yeah, right after that. So Quigley was the mentor of Bill Clinton. So, you don't have to like the guy's politics, but you ought to listen to what he has to say because he was telling the truth.
Very scary. Now, keeping in mind who Carroll Quigley was, what he wrote, let's say you take the other side, say, no, that's a bunch of you know what. Okay? No way. Okay. Do you want to know who said this first or after I say it?
Let's see. Let me see if I can guess.
Okay, you will, but all right. And I know this is a direct quote because I'd seen it on the web and then I figured out I have to actually see this in the book. So I got the book. And it actually did not take me long to find this one. So this is accurate. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidences, such as my encounter with Castro, to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. That's pretty damning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I wonder if it's true.
Well,
I know it comes next because I know the quote and
yeah.
I know who said it. So
Okay.
continue. It's drop the
Well,
hammer.
okay. This is David Rockefeller. His book Memoirs, 2002. He was the head of the family. That is what he wrote. That is what he said he and his family have been charged with. Working against the best interests of the United States, internationalists, conspiring, one world. This is his one sentence answer. If that is the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Great Reset. That is the cabal.
How does that quote from David Rockefeller blend in with what I read from Carroll Quigley?
Well, remember what I said that Quigley worked for the Council of
Yeah,
Foreign Relations?
yeah,
And remember who I said founded the Council of Foreign Relations? That was the
hmm,
Rockefeller family.
yeah.
These machinations have been in play for more than a century. This predates the Federal Reserve in 1913. These people have been at this for a very long time.
What I like about putting these two together is you have Carroll Quigley, who people have not generally heard of, and it's a pretty damning statement from him. But when you find out that it is absolutely in line and supported by what David Rockefeller said in 2002, I like it.
Well, I'd like to put this into context because you and I have learned these things because we're avid readers and researchers. Other people have been able to find this stuff because it's readily available. But
Hmm.
we elect Congress critters supposedly to represent us and not these multinational corporations, globalists, and everything like that. Everyone in Congress either knows this or should know it, but you never hear them say a word. Not since Ron Paul talked about ending the Fed has anyone been willing to stand up and talk about this stuff. I mean, Donald Trump did, and you saw it, and the entire administration, the entire bureaucracy of DC, the entrenched establishment, all the intel agencies, both domestically and internationally, went after this guy, both with Russiagate and every minute since, because he actually stood up against their one world order globalist plans, which are now self-destructing right in front of us. But that's why is nobody else talking about this in DC?
Because
That's the infuriating part to me.
I'll tell you why. And this is my last sentence in my on this that I wrote in 2014. The fact, and thank you for what you just said. The fact is, very few citizen owners express any concern at all for our national future, or seem to notice or care that this country is going down the drain faster and faster. I wrote that in 2014. The point is that they're not talking about this in DC because we, the citizen owners, are not making them. We have to get active. We have to talk to our elected employees in DC and elsewhere and say, what are you doing? What are you thinking? We need to begin the process of looking at laws before they get signed and say, uh, how is this constitutional? If it's not constitutional, you don't get a. Why are you even working on this law? I would, we just have to start. We have to start. We, the people, have to start demanding that the people in DC who allegedly are there to represent us and protect and defend the Constitution, which they swear an oath to. We need to get them to do it.
We do, but the system's been bought and paid for by those people who have amassed massive fortunes and control,
But
who gets
that,
to run for office. That has to change.
well, it's going to only change if we get enough people to demand it.
Well,
And
since you agreed, get involved locally. Start, fix your county, save your country.
there you go.
Since you
Uh,
since you talked about the Rockefellers, it's a great segue to one of the topics I brought.
Beautiful.
And
Before you get into it, anything in chat that we need to talk about?
Total Crap's pretty pleased that David Rockefeller is no longer among the living. I like that comment.
Okay. Anything
Uh,
else?
yeah, I gotta. You bring up Rockefellers, because this is a good segue. It'll tell you just how much power this one family has.
Okay.
Right around 1971, a number of events happened. Henry Kissinger makes a secret stealth mission to China to open up China to the West. Shortly thereafter, the Bush family would become the first, the gatekeepers to U.S. businesses doing business in China. He also had 1971,
Mm.
the creation of the World Economic Forum. Now, they're all about the Great Reset, one world government. That was run by the guy by the name of Klaus Schwab.
St- and he's about to retire.
He is.
Yes.
Um, Not a moment too soon. Other things that happened right then was a guy by the name of Maurice Strong, a Canadian oil guy, uh, started working with the United Nations and started the entire United Nations green movement. Everything from the Rio de Janeiro, Brazil uh, summit that started, really gave public awareness to climate scare, whether it's global cooling or global warming, they didn't care. And of course, Brzezinski was involved in a lot of these things. So these four names, Kissinger, Brzezinski, Maurice Strong, and Klaus Schwab, all have something in common. They were all stooges of the Rockefellers in the late 60s.
Mm.
Every single one of them. This is all Rockefeller. Now, why would the Rockefellers, who once had a monopoly on petroleum, want to create an artificial shortage? Well, they already had enough money, so all they cared about after that was power and legacy. And that, to me, that is at the core of what we're facing right now, is this plot by the Rockefellers and other families like that sit at the head of the table. But it all ties in together. They're all connected. And this is the Council of Foreign Relations that's been running our foreign policy for the last, pretty much post World War II,
Mm.
with the CIA doing illegal coups in 78 and counting different countries. This is our foreign policy. It is not done for us. It is done for them. So I touched on the green movement, and you were talking about minimum wage in the next story that I brought. Uh, and
Can I add one thing before you move on?
yeah, please.
The original head of the Rockefeller family, John, that's
Yeah.
okay. You can go back into the 1800s late 1800s when they first started. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember a quote assigned to him that gives an overall idea, excuse me, that maybe they got educated with as they had children and grandchildren. And the quote is something to the effect, consolidation is the future.
Uh,
That,
Digga Dan was reading the book he was reading. He
mm-hmm,
actually read one of the Rockefeller's quotes.
okay.
The short version of it is "Competition is a sin," but he was actually talking about that's his famous quote: "Competition is a sin." But he
Yeah,
said that the only way to amass, uh, I guess, large amounts of wealth is through monopolization, and I think that's the wrong term. It's actually cartels.
but the thing is that the focus is on amassing, taking, holding, keeping, regardless of how it negatively impacts anyone else. This
Well,
is, it's just horrible.
yeah, it is. It's inhuman. It's evil, and it must be stopped.
Exactly.
And their biggest fear is there's more of us than there are of them, which ties into the depopulation Malthusian concept. And these ideas go back several centuries. Thomas Malthus started the whole there's too many scarce resources, there's too many people on the planet. That's where that comes from. And if you go look through the Malthusian philosophical family tree, you get all kinds of guys like Darwin, uh, Freud. The list goes on and on. We could do a 2-hour show just on all the people that bought into that ideology and how it got us here.
Very sad.
But you talk about who it affects, and like most of us, I get 100+ emails every single day. I'm somehow subscribed to more newsletters than I ever intended to be. But one of the ones I don't always just send to literally delete is one I'm going to share.
Okay.
It's
Good
from a
deal. Thank you.
That's from a woman named Elizabeth Nixon. Um, Bear with me 1 second while I'm sharing.
Sure.
And her Substack is called Welcome to Absurdistan, which is pretty good. And I think she's Canadian, and that's what she indicates here. But good writer. Topic of this article is the epic bull. Can I say bullshit? I guess I can.
You
The epic
just did.
bullshit of catastrophic climate change. COP28 is the codification of elite hate and lies all the way down. Written on June 15th, so just last week, earlier this week. Here's Senator Coons. Continuing moving forward regardless of the data. Doesn't
There's
matter what.
Alex Newman
Yeah.
on the picture
Is that who that is on the right?
right there. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to read this real quick.
Go right ahead.
I am on RFK's campaign mailing list, probably through the Children's Health Defense. And they asked me for money, and I said, sure, just as soon as he fixes the catastrophe he caused in the province where I live. So she is Canadian. She got a message back. It read, Elizabeth, I am sure Robert would fix whatever harm he caused. Can you explain? No problem, I said. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Interrupt
Yeah. No,
anywhere
no,
you
no,
want.
no, no. Take your time. This is good.
Okay. In British Columbia, we had the largest industrial forest in the world. It paid for education and universal, quote unquote, free healthcare. The environmental left decided to shut it down. The reason for their protest was that government, as was common practice, had sold cutting permits with long leaseholds. A new socialist government announced it was pulling the permits and taking those forests back. Got to protect the environment, right, Alan?
Absolutely.
They mean well, obviously.
Of course.
And there's never going to be any downstream consequences to government intervention, is there?
They always do it right the first time.
Of course. Number 5, in order not to lose all the invested money, which they had not only paid for upfront and in annual leasing charges, but paid taxes on, some for decades, the lessees immediately clear-cut their lands. Clear-cuts are ugly, in quotes, but they are fire breaks. That triggered the protest. RFK Jr. came in under Riverkeepers and supercharged the protest. His celebrity and glamour made the protest major international news. I was in London, I heard about it. More kids joined the protest, and then more and more, until the government caved. Would it have happened without his presence? I don't think so. He gave very young people who had no access to power, nor any hope of it, ever, a very heady hit of significance, and their lives took on huge meaning. For many, it remains the high point of their lives, because for the province, it was all downhill from there. All promise vanished, and a grinding, slow growth followed. What she's describing there are these indoctrinated kids who have not lived long enough to know any better, buying into an emotional idea, getting involved, finding their place in the world, thinking they're making a difference, and doing the opposite. Any thoughts?
No, keep going. Keep going. This is great stuff.
Over the ensuing 10 years, cutting was diminished and heavy regulation covered the rest. By 2002, written regulations piled on top of each other stood 7 feet high, taller than a man. Forested communities died. 100,000 families lost their livelihood. Resource jobs have huge multipliers. Not only forested towns died, so did regional metropolitan centers. The Greens, replete with success, hit other resource industries, mining, ranching, which died. More families bankrupted. They were told to go into tourism, which pays minimum wage and can only support a family if everyone, even the children, work. And it's seasonal. Over time, the unmanaged forest became clogged with overgrowth. Little trees like carrots pulled all the water from the forest floor, desiccated the soil, and then pulled water from the aquifers. The forest became tinder, and increasingly, every summer, they exploded in fire. But we're going to blame global warming, right, for the fires?
Of course. Absolutely.
Well, they're actually right, because global warming is a made-up thing, and the policies they enacted for their made-up thing causes forest fires. So it's an accurate statement. Global warming causes fires. Continuing, the government I'm glad you understand my dry sense of humor.
Yes.
Dry as a Canadian forest. The government needed money. Casinos provided it. Asian cartels, you cannot imagine how violent they are, moved in and used the casinos to launder most of the drug money from North America. They bribed immigration, they bribed city government, they threatened anyone who tried to stand in their way. They were so successful, human trafficking and child sex trafficking shot up. We have the second largest port on the west coast of North and South America. This is Vancouver, BC. Through its streams container loads of drugs and trafficked children and women. At the port, you just stand aside if you want to live. You think most of the fentanyl comes in through Mexico? Nope, it comes through us, meaning Canada. The cartels do pay taxes. You think BlackRock is bad? These guys kill if they don't get what they want. They're buying every business they can to launder money through. The cartels also launder money through real estate in the city. That means housing is insanely expensive and property taxes are sky high. Canadians can't afford to buy houses or live in the ones they own. Family making a medium income has to pay 100% of income to buy a median priced house. Crime is a driver of the economy and B, a principal source of government revenue. Green has destroyed the province. I won't read the rest, but
Okay.
I think it kind of speaks for itself.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you for bringing that to our attention. The thing is, I going back to forest, going back to green. There's a place that has possibly more trees, per acre than any country in the world. It's called Finland. And I've been from the top to the bottom of it. And they got a lot of trees. They actually, if you look at, and I've seen satellite views of it during the summer, Finland has almost no forest fires. You're talking about a place that has more trees per acre than any country in the world. But it has almost no forest fires. You know why? They manage the forest. They log it. To log it, they build logging roads, which are natural fire breaks. They log responsibility because every year you want to have inventory, don't you? Of course you do. And they clean out all the dead garbage so there's nothing to burn. That's managed forest. That's green. That's good for the planet. That's good for the animals, the birds, the squirrels, everybody else. They got some place to live. And we use wood. It's not an all or nothing thing. It's do it properly. So thank you for bringing that up.
It's an important topic, and I was looking at the chat. A lot of people are crazy about the Rockefellers too. I thought
You mean crazy good or crazy?
Crazy in my dry sense of humor.
Good. Okay.
Sarcastic. One of my favorite little factoids about them is you remember when Nixon had to resign? The guy who stepped
Well,
in.
he didn't have to. He chose to.
There you go. Well, someone who never ran for VP or president, who stepped into the presidency, was a guy by the name of Gerald Ford.
Right.
Ford also happened to be one of the guys who sat on the Warren Commission that investigated JFK's assassination and concluded that, of course, Lee Harvey Oswald acted on his own.
Alone.
Yeah, and he got rewarded with the presidency. But what's interesting is his vice president was one of Nixon's opponents in 1968, a guy by the name of Nelson Rockefeller. But Nelson's full name is Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller.
Aldrich is very important.
Well, that's because his family was really good friends by a Senator Aldrich, who happened to be one of the people who orchestrated the creation of the Federal Reserve on Jekyll Island in 1913. And in fact, he owned the train that all the bankers secretly took down to Georgia for Jekyll Island. So, yeah, you want to know who runs the world? There you have it, people.
If you want to there's a book, a pamphlet. It was actually an article, I think, Saturday Evening Post. It's called From Farm Boy to Financier. And I forget the guy's name, but he was one of the attendees on Jekyll Island. And he gives a full, complete description of getting there and being there. This was a well orchestrated event.